Do you want to react to one more? You want to do this highlight of the Republican debates? It's pretty short.
Sure, sure.
Watch Trump run through these guys and see if we can learn anything from it. I have one video on YouTube reacting to one of these.
Safe to say it was the Donald Trump show tonight, for better or for worse. At the first Republican debate held in Cleveland, it was
for better or for worse, as if the media doesn't choose what to report on, and as if they don't set the narrative, and as if they didn't give Trump free airtime the entire campaign. Like, all he had to do was be controversial, and the media couldn't help themselves. They had to use him for clicks.
At times easy to forget that there were 9 other candidates on the stage. We've got our analysts standing by, but let's begin here tonight with the highlights.
In the center of the stage tonight, businessman Donald Trump.
Right from the jump tonight, Donald Trump made waves.
Is there anyone on stage, and can I see hands, who is unwilling tonight to pledge your support to the eventual nominee of the Republican Party and pledge to not run an independent campaign against that person? Mr. Trump.
Do you see what I mean? Like, what if Bernie would have done that? Like, what if the DNC, MSNBC were like, do you promise not to run an independent campaign against Hillary? And Bernie was just like, I can't promise that. I might do it. Like, come on. Would that not be better?
Absolutely.
It's so funny. We need Bernie's politics with Trump's balls. Not really. We need Marxist-Leninist politics.
With Fidel and Che balls.
Yes, Fidel and Che balls. There you go.
I cannot say I can totally make that pledge. If I'm the nominee, I will pledge I will not run as an independent.
So tonight you can't say
what's wrong. Okay. What's wrong?
If I am the nominee, I will not run as an independent.
Oh my god, this man's a fucking genius.
Watching him bust up the snooty, freaking privileged American political establishment, and I'll never get tired of it.
He buys and sells politicians of all stripes. He's used to buying politicians.
Well, I've given him plenty of money. I won't make a pledge at this time.
Rand Paul is actually making a good point too. He's like, Donald Trump's part of the oligarchic class. He's part of the real estate. But then, of course, libertarians never live up to their principles. They're actually just capitalists. So Trump turns around and says, I donated to you. Oh, man.
Okay. A few other candidates said a few other things, and then 21 minutes in, it was back to Trump for another doozy.
You've called women you don't like fat pigs, dogs, slobs, and disgusting animals. Your Twitter account...
Only Rosie O'Donnell.
No, it wasn't. For the record, it was well beyond Rosie O'Donnell.
Yes, I'm sure it was.
Your Twitter account has several disparaging comments about women's looks.
I think the big problem this country has is being politically correct.
Moments later, Rosie herself weighed in on Twitter, quote, try explaining that to your kids. The testiest moment of the night didn't involve Trump, but instead New Jersey Governor Chris Christie and Kentucky Senator Rand Paul. It was over the NSA's bulk data collection, which Christie supports and Paul does not.
I want to collect more records from terrorists, but less records from innocent Americans.
When you're sitting in a subcommittee, just blow.
Okay, but again, with the libertarians not having realistic policies, like, good, he's criticizing the NSA, but then he's like, we need to collect more data of terrorists. Like, no, you can't trust the bourgeois state to create a spying agency. They're going to use it to spy on the working masses every single time, Rand Paul. But I wonder what small government conservative Chris Christie will say about the NSA.
Blowing hot air about this. You can say things like that.
You fundamentally misunderstand the Bill of Rights. I don't trust President Obama with our records. I know you gave him a big hug, and if you want to give him a big hug again, go right ahead.
Oh, he hugged Obama.
Senator Paul, the hugs that I remember are the hugs that I gave to the families who lost their people on September 11th.
To be sure, there was plenty of Hillary Clinton bashing.
What? Those are the hugs he remembers.
Oh, these people are so fucking stupid.
They really are. I don't know. Nobody even watches these debates, and except for people who are really invested in the political circus, and it's easy to see why. Like, who falls for that? Chris Christie going, I hugged people on 9/11. Like, oh, he's got my vote. Like, come on.
Oh my god. It's always the 9/11 victims and kids.
Yes,
I
right.
remember Amy Klobuchar. She would always tell this fucking story about kids. Oh my god.
Oh yeah, she had that same story she'd tell over and over again where her hair would bob.
And the same joke too about
Oh
Trump.
yes. She was telling the same joke over and over again, then people made fun of her and she said they were sexist. I remember that. And Chris, like the government, remember Jon Stewart had to do that whole public campaign where he had to shame Congress and shame the government to like give 9/11 first responders like health care or like cancer treatment from the building that they inhaled. And the government wouldn't give them that till Jon Stewart like freaked out, and basically it went viral and they were shamed into doing something. But Chris Christie, thinks we should give him a pat on the back because he gave them a hug.
Yeah, it's like the fucking immigration issue. Like every day you turned on MSNBC or CNN while Trump was president, they were talking about kids in cages. Well, guess what? They're still in fucking cages, and now no one talks about it. Like, what the fuck? I was on Dust, and I just found out that there was 50 something immigrants that were found dead trying to cross the border. Where is this? Like, no one's reporting on this. What happened to the caring of immigrant lives? Like, they're still there. Nothing's being done about them. Yeah.
We had a big petition when Biden got elected. He got a lot of signatures. I ended up talking with a bunch of people from change.org over Zoom to try and boost it. And I ended up telling him, like, I honestly think this is a waste of time because I don't think Biden's going to do it. I literally don't think there's anything we can do to force this piece of poop to do anything. So far, we've been right, I guess.
If Hillary is the candidate, which I doubt, that would be a dream come true.
If I'm our nominee, how is Hillary Clinton going to lecture me about living paycheck to paycheck?
Everywhere in the world that Hillary Clinton touched is more messed up today than before she in the
We have many questions to
Facts.
come.
Here in the same arena in Cleveland where the Republican Party will hold its national convention next year. But perhaps the most bizarre riff on Hillary came from the Donald, who talked about why he contributed to her in the past.
With Hillary Clinton, I said, be at my wedding, and she came to my wedding. You know why? She had no choice.
It was a bit of a tough time for Jeb Bush. The former governor of Florida seems to struggle on issues such as immigration, education, and
Jeb.
once again, the Iraq War. But he did stay above the fray when offered a chance to attack Trump.
You called Mr. Trump a clown, a buffoon,
Don't bring
something
up-
else that cannot be repeated on television.
None of which is true.
Is it true?
No, it's not true. But I have said that Mr. Trump's language is divisive. I want to win. I want one of these people here, or the ones at 5 o'clock, to be the next president of the United States.
Well, first of all, Jeb, I am very happy that you denied that, and I appreciate that very much.
So how did the debate go over with Republican voters? We got some rapid response tonight.
It's crazy that we still have Bushes, though. We still have Bushes and Clintons running for president. Like Prescott Bush, Jeb and George's grandpa made his money allied with Adolf Hitler. And the corporation that he owned was funding the Nazis in Germany. And, now these people have been passed down that wealth generationally, and they're still around, and they're still the same people running our political system. It's almost like we have a monarchy in some ways.
Oh, yeah.
I want to play one video in between here. It's because it made me think of Jeb Bush.
Jeb Bush
had an even worse one.
He's having a really bad campaign. Look at this campaign moment. This is in Hanover. Tuesday. Look at this.
I think the next president needs to be a lot quieter, but send a signal that we're prepared to act in the national security interests of this country to get back in the business of creating a more peaceful world. Please clap.
Please clap for my neocon talking points. We need someone who's quieter about destabilizing a bunch of other countries abroad and destroying Iraq. Please clap.
I think they were confused because he's like, we need someone who's quieter. And then he asked for people to clap, which is like the least quiet thing you could do.
Right. Nothing Jeb did. It's like, even with all that wealth and power and like family, just nepotism, he's probably failed upward his whole life. Like, he just has no charisma. He was just in over his head, floundering in every debate.
Say it, I will.
Poor guy. He probably wants to be like an abstract artist or something, or make like interpretive finger paints.
Like it's brother.
right? But they're like, you got to be president like George. You got to invade Iran.
Only
gotta
after you're
run.
president can you do the finger paintings.
Right. You can do figure paintings when you're retired living on a ranch in Texas like George.
I can definitely see that being spun into like one of these bougie Netflix cry stories. My parents made me be president before I could do finger paintings. I always wanted to be a finger painter. Only my brother got to do it.
Jeb is played by like Adam Sandler. It's like in some ranch in Texas somewhere, finger painting pictures of George. Like your Waterboy impression is pretty good.
Oh my god.
Political commentator who's become a viral sensation on YouTube in recent weeks. Tonight, she weighed in on all things Trump.
We know Donald Trump tells it like it is. He's not afraid of it. What I saw, though, is Donald Trump be fearless. I didn't see him back himself into a corner. I saw him challenge Megyn Kelly. I saw him challenge other Republicans on the stage. And
Sorry, but one thing that's funny has been like all these people who's backed Trump, like Tommy Lahren and Charlie Kirk, who kind of even backed Trump against the Republican Party. And now their whole wagon has just been tied to Trump. And you haven't heard much from them since the Trump campaign because their whole identity was like Trump was just like this flash in the pan sort of right-wing populism. But I don't know, like if a lot of these commentators are still around and if they're going to make a resurgence if Trump runs again, it'll be interesting to see. But the Bernie campaign and the Trump campaign spawned a lot of like media figures and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I saw Megyn Kelly challenge him right back. I like the conversation there.
And ABC's Tom Yamas was right there in Cleveland tonight for all the drama. Tom, what are you seeing there?
Dan, good evening from the post-debate spin room where candidates are answering even more questions. The big buzz, obviously, that Donald Trump is not afraid to run without the Republican Party, refusing to take a pledge that he will not run as an independent. The other big buzz, some candidates actually breaking through. Besides Donald Trump, Dr. Ben Carson, the second most talked about candidate on social media. And speaking of social media, Hillary Clinton had something to say. Jon Stewart, missing you already. #GOP debate. Dan, back to you.
Tom Yamas on the ground in Cleveland tonight. Thank you. We want to turn now to our colleague, Matt Dowd, ABC News political analyst, and also BuzzFeed's Washington, D.C. bureau chief, John Stanton. Gentlemen, thanks for being here. Let me start with you. Did Donald Trump help or hurt himself tonight?
I think Donald Trump had momentum coming into tonight, but I think over the course of the 2 hours, I think it wore sort of thin over this. And I think any momentum, in my view, that he had coming in is stopped by tonight. I think he made a few errors in the course of tonight.
This is hilarious.
That dude's name was Lamas.
Is it?
Or Lamas. His last name was Lamas.
I think they said he's a BuzzFeed editor or like a head of BuzzFeed. Trump has, the BuzzFeed experts that ABC News brings in. Trump has no chance. All this momentum is stopped. He's definitely not going to destroy everybody from here on out and win the presidency. Yeah, these political analysts are just bourgeois ideologues, if anybody didn't know.
Some of the engagement that he had with some of the moderators, but I think what he did, he'll still be ahead coming out, but I think any momentum is now stalled because of his shtick. Kind of got a little old over 2 hours.
So, John, you work at BuzzFeed. I've got to ask you, do you have a sense of what is popping tonight? What's going viral, if anything?
I think there are a couple things. I think one, the eye roll from Rand Paul.
Oh, no, this is the BuzzFeed guy.
In his fight with Governor Christie. I think the Donald Trump sort of the shruggy emoticon moment there was pretty good because they both sort of sum up, I think, their debate performances, frankly. But I think coming out of today, Carly Fiorina, who did very, very well in the afternoon debate, and the Ohio Governor Kasich, he did very, very well tonight. And I think they're going to have momentum, and that could change the dynamic a little bit for Trump.
Why are people so excited about Carly?
Carly Fiorina.
Oh, yeah, didn't they do a JV debate? They did there were so many GOP candidates. They did an all-stars debate, and then they did a JV debate. And these guys are like, oh, these JV candidates are probably going to come beat Trump. They're pretty cool. And all the Republican voters nope.
It's such a stupid, way of doing politics.
Mm-hmm.
It's so dumb. Politics ends up being, who can say the snarkiest shit. The way that politics is done in socialist states is just so different, and it's so professional. The actual aim of governance is to meet the people's needs and create common prosperity.
That's such a good
game. Sorry, go ahead. Doesn't exist.
That's such a good point. Imagine this going on in Cuba or anywhere, them sitting down and thinking, what moments from tonight's debate went big on Twitter, and like thinking that this is political analysis, or this is what constitutes political analysis. BuzzFeed editors telling you what went viral on Twitter, while they tell you that, Trump, the candidate who would eventually win, his momentum is stalled and he has no chance, versus these candidates like Fiorina, who got like 2% of the vote, are going to come from behind and win. It's just nonsensical. But they tell you, like, you have to listen to these people like they're experts, and they are not.
Will be in the next debate. I think she has enough momentum from her earlier debate. By all accounts, she won it overwhelmingly, and I think there was enough people at this debate that sort of faded from it that she's going to jump into that next debate in September. So get ready for Carly Fiorina. And I agree. I think if there was a winner tonight, it was John Kasich, the governor of Ohio. I think he came across as the adult in the room. His answers, they flowed
The
well.
adult in the room.
And I actually think he had the line of the night tonight, which is, God loves me unconditionally, therefore, in the answer to the question about gay marriage and his daughters, therefore, I'm going to love my friends and my family unconditionally.
Okay, before we go, got to ask you about Jeb Bush.
I think he didn't do a lot to ultimately distinguish himself, which is kind of, I think, what he needed to do to get some kind of momentum.
I'll take it a step further. I think Jeb Bush is no longer the inevitable candidate that everybody thought he was. I think of anybody on that stage tonight that didn't do what they were supposed to do at all. He's going to need every dollar of his $100 million in this course of this race, because he just lost any veneer of inevitability.
They thought he was going to win because he had $100 million. They still couldn't. Gosh, people, like, and we were just watching the video about democratic socialism where they're like, how are we going to pay for healthcare? It's like, you spent $100 million on the Jeb Bush campaign. You found a way to pay for that.